Welcome to the SIWIKE Podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE Podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with our new guest host, Jeremy. Jeremy, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Luki.
Sounds good. So Jeremy comes to us with a background in sales, client success, and just business in general. So Jeremy, if you were to tell folks what you were up to these days, what would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on once again. So my name is Jeremy, and I work within the client success space right now at Indeed. I manage a lot of different accounts within the enterprise realm and specifically within healthcare. So I handle a lot of healthcare needs. Specifically a lot of job postings for some of these bigger companies and just making sure that everything is going good, the wheels are turning, and their job feeds are working as intended on our platform.
Sounds good. So that people can get hired and get placed in jobs and all that good stuff. So, and obviously you didn't start off there out the womb, but I would love if you go back in time and tell us a little bit about what was Jeremy like as a kid. So are there any early fond childhood memories that you could share?
Absolutely. I was very adventurous, pretty insightful as a different different child of a traditional Indian family growing up, but always wanted to be a jack of trades in the business sense. Always wanted to have my finger in a lot of different pies, make sure that I was able to be a handyman around the house, always able that people will be able to come up to me and to discuss any of their different questions regarding business needs. And just growing up, watching a lot of different movies, I always had a lot of different insights into, the Western culture and how different people would operate within an office environment, within their own business environment, be it small business, be it entrepreneurial sense. And I've always had a knack for, let's say, moving around and being able to handle myself in a lot of different situations, be able to carry the conversation and operate a negotiation. And I think that really translated a lot towards where I am today and being able to handle a sales or account management level conversation with a lot of different people at a higher level within some of these organizations. And I attribute a lot of that to my childhood growing up and just being within that westernized culture.
Sounds good. And growing up, were you heavily influenced on the business side, growing up into doing like sales and what have you, or were there kind of different influences in the environment?
Funny enough, it didn't always start off as a sales or client success conversation. Those came later on, just when I took a look at different career paths. But in the beginning, I would say that was influenced a lot by, let's say, close family or friends working in interesting fields that I never truly glanced at too much. For example, cybersecurity, IT, data science, and storytelling. And I wanted to choose a career path that I enjoyed with the potential for further advancement. And this is something that really piqued me within account management and client success for many reasons, particularly the fact that I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy being able to steer forward in that direction with any different client and kind of navigate and solve their problems on a day-to-day basis, because the challenges that I face here daily really do help me out with advancing my career and making sure that I want to help others, and at the same time I'm helping myself. So it starts off with that little gesture.
Sound good. So it sounded like that there are some influences on the tech side, but that didn't necessarily interest you as much as things like business account management, where you can connect with people and interact with them, helping them with their challenges and issues. And because you had that, knack of watching movies and being familiar with Western culture, then you were able to kind of carry on conversations, and that seemed like a natural fit. And then you mentioned a little bit of kind of on the entrepreneurial side. Do you have any examples as a kid on how that kind of manifested itself?
Yeah, absolutely. Same as most people who grew up within, let's say, a neighborhood and wanted to cater to the needs of other people around them. You might start a lemonade stand. I used to do that back in Toronto when I was growing up. I used to do lawn mowing, snow shoveling. Just at the start, just cop in my brother and going along with a lot of the other kids in the neighborhood. And from there, it just kind of kept going down. Sometimes I would do tutoring for other kids within my area or within my school, and just that entrepreneurial sense made me believe that I really like doing a day job, but at the same time, I like helping out other people on the side where I can and using my talents to benefit them.
Sounds good. And it seems like that you took some of those entrepreneurial tendencies to do like different events and things like that. But I love if we kind of went into, let's call it high school, right? So you're in there. It seems like that you're able to have conversations. You're slated a little bit on the business side. Was it pretty clear cut to say, okay, I'm going to go down business. I'm going to go down this account management path? Or how did you eventually kind of find that? Was there kind of a key person that you met or an event or something that led you down that? Because to be honest, like account management's not the typical, right? It's like a doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer. Those are the basic ones. Most people don't hear about like account management and sales, right? So how did you get put onto that path?
Absolutely. And when you go through high school, you've got a number of different people throwing ideas into your head, right? You got your parents throwing ideas, you got family members throwing ideas, you got the guidance counselor kind of whispering in your ear as well. And you don't know exactly which path you're going to go. For me, I did not. For a long period of time, I wanted to go directly into, let's say, finance and accounting. But I made the pivot into account management and client success later on after high school, as I got to work with some of the most talented people from different industries and learn from their experience on a daily basis. So as I got to encounter some new problems and creative ways to solve these issues on a daily basis, I'd say that keeps me extremely engaged and helps me in this forward-thinking mindset that made me pivot into, let's say, account management rather than going to a traditional, let's say, finance or engineering or kind of medical background. Something that I might have done traditionally if I was more influenced on that side. But growing up and coming into contact with a lot of different people within the kind of let's say event marketing space, space downtown where people are generally sharing their talents and going over entrepreneurial spirit really helped me kind of move into this space here.
Sounds good. So in high school, it sounded like that you were originally going to go finance and accounting. So you probably picked your like post-secondary education along those veins. And when did you start, I guess, realizing, hey, this might not be for me? And how did that process come about? You mentioned a little bit where you got exposure to folks doing like event management, things like that. Is there any kind of a pivotal moment or is it just kind of like a gradual build up to say, hey, I had this preconceived notion that I would do finance accounting, but after testing it, these assumptions aren't holding as well as I had. So if you can walk us through a little bit on that process detail, that would be helpful.
So after university, I took some time to do just basic sales and I was working within just the telecom space, doing sales at Bell. And I decided I wanted to go back to school and look at something else. I went back to Humber and I started a program there for business. I ended up working alongside the administration there. And one of the biggest parts that I was doing along with the student union was event management. And that came to be when they were asking me about LinkedIn and how I operate. And I told them how I generally connect with people on LinkedIn, how I move to kind of do personalized invites, how I move to do a lot more of the uncommon engagement. And one of the different managers that I was working with said, it might be a good idea if we look at doing something like that for everybody within the Humber space. And I thought this might be really good for them to network. And the whole networking idea came from the LinkedIn space there when I saw someone like Swish Goswami running an event called LinkedIn Local. And we ran with that idea and I contacted Swish and I said, hey, listen, let's go ahead and run an event here at Humber. So me and him got in contact. We ran a full-fledged event at Humber and we got a whole bunch of people to come out. And it ended up being fantastic to showcase a lot of the different creative talent that we have within our Toronto community and also just Canada in general. And I called one of my friends from university actually to come sit on the panel who was featured on Dragon's Den. And he dropped a lot of really good nuggets there. And from there, it just kept going, right? Hosting these events. And I think that the entire kind of notion to start these started off of just helping benefit the students there. So it was a really good idea that kind of that did really snowball into a bigger effect.
So it sounds like it's a bit of serendipity where you had this, I guess, way of doing things on LinkedIn, having this uncommon engagement, and then folks recognize that to say, hey, you're doing some good stuff. Could we bring that to the rest of the student population? And then one thing led to another, and soon you have panelists from like Dragon's Den and things like that as part of that. So it kind of goes to show with some folks. If you take a look at some of the stuff that you sometimes take for granted, right? It comes easy to you, but oftentimes the things that come easy to you don't come easy to other folks, right? So oftentimes if you take some of those skills and say, hey, I can help you with that, there's going to be someone who needs that help. And oftentimes that can be a path to further success. So it sounds like that the LinkedIn local thing turned into something interesting. And then you've kind of progressed into your career and done a couple other things. So I'd love if you shared a little bit about the process from university to college and I guess to where you are now, and maybe a couple of highlights along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So after university, I worked within the, let's say, sales space and also largely within telecom. I worked at a couple of different companies such as, let's say, Bell, Rogers, TELUS, and also what's known now as Freedom Mobile. And working within telecom space, just in a kind of sales capacity, maybe realized that, you know, maybe sales isn't what I want to do, because it's very kind of it is open-ended, and there are a lot of different paths to move forward there. But that grind on a regular basis was not the kind of grind that I wanted to do. There was limitations to how much I could do, and I wanted to work within more of a consultative capacity, and I wanted to solve problems on a daily basis, being a little bit more creative with my talents and having to come up with bigger solutions to large problems. And I realized that I needed to take a step back and potentially look at, is this the career path I want to go to? Do I need to make some more connections? And that ended up to me going back to Humber. So after a couple of years of doing that, I went back to Humber. I made a lot of connections within the space there, and how things skyrocketed into event marketing, doing LinkedIn locals, and then eventually getting an internship at Humber towards going to work at LinkedIn. So basically, I ended up getting in contact with one of my good friends at LinkedIn. And she told me to come swing by and help out with students and help out with navigating them on a good career path and making sure that we can run more events. So I was in a really good place. I was able to work helping out students, bringing them over to the office, making sure that students understood the tools that they had within the LinkedIn platform to move forward, along with LinkedIn Learning. And at the time, it was called Linda. So now it's just formally known as that, and it's currently known as LinkedIn Learning. And students are able to use that for free, able to benefit themselves by learning new skills and abilities to move forward, let's say, within the interview conversation, within adapting their mindset, and all of those different items. They're translated over to working in account management for me, and be very confident in my ability to consult at a very high level. And I think that getting that experience from, let's say, college and university really kind of benefited me and helped me benefit others towards getting jobs in their respective spaces.
Yeah, and I love if you go back a little bit for that time when you were trying to find that new path, right? So you said, okay, sales is not for me. You want something more consultative. Like, what were some of the options that you were considering? Were you always considering going back to school, or were there other paths that you were looking at? Or what was that thought process, if you can recall?
I think the thought process towards going back to school is very deep, and it requires you to make sure that you are in a steady path already in life. And it's good that you have family behind you as well who support you going back to school, because a lot of people graduate with, let's say, business degrees, and they don't know exactly what they want to do. They start looking at different entrepreneurial guidelines. Some people might go into sales in a car showroom. Some people might open up their own business for a couple of years, and then something like COVID hits, and they have to hit the drawing board again. And for me, it was a sense of if I've got a little bit of a background within the general business space, and then maybe in the finance space, it might help me out. But for someone like myself who was always doing a lot of, let's say, blue collar warehouse jobs as I was growing up, in order to just make a little bit of money on the side, I think the biggest item for me was making sure that I found a niche that I enjoyed on a regular basis, and that I wouldn't have to really regret growing up. And for me, that was just finding, let's say, not just a desk job, but finding something that I'm a little bit mobile and I can do day in, day out without looking down when I'm 40 or 50 and thinking, this is something that I don't want to continue doing, and then having to do a career path switch later on. Because the biggest thing for me, and consulting a lot of different professionals within the business realm, was just, do you want to start something now and then continue it your whole life? Or do you want to start something, maybe take a pivot every 5 to 10 years and go from there? Or do you want to kind of look back eventually when you're 40, 50 and think, I should have taken that
Right.
path? So I think that these are all items that I really had to evaluate, and speaking to a lot of different professionals within their respective spaces, a lot of doctors, a lot of engineers, a lot of people, let's say, within, for example, architects, and asking them exactly what was their biggest pivot, helped me realize that not everybody has a clear-cut path, and everybody has that kind of a turning point towards maybe starting a new career. And I decided, I really like working within a 9-to-5 space, but at the same time, in today's society, you want to have more than one item that you've got going on, and you want to focus on doing multiple things at a time, but making sure that you have balance with everything in your life. So right now, what I do with my 9-to-5 is literally just helping out people here at Indeed, and at the same time, I do work on the side towards helping people develop their own careers, making sure that I'm doing a kind of a resume lookovers, making sure that I'm helping people apply to jobs in the correct method, and then after that, after my 9-to-5, I also work out at a Muay Thai gym, and I help coach there as well. And this is part of what I like to do on the side. And I think that making sure you've got a 9-to-5 along with your hobbies and your passions attuned with it really helps you balance that. So this is how I kind of move forward from looking at, just a very linear path through life, and looking at things from a holistic perspective.
Yeah, and what I took away from that is that tends to be the new norm, right? It used to be that you would graduate from university, you get into a career, you'd climb up the corporate ladder, and then you'd retire, and that's it, right? Now it seems to be like, well, how many times will you switch and pivot and do things, right? So some advice that I took from there was consult different folks that are doing things that you want, right? And learn from them and see what they say. Now, not every single one of them you want to do exactly as they said, but see, okay, yeah, that sounds like something that would help me, and learn from those that have been there, right? Because life is not generally a straight line. And if you have things like the family support to help you go back to school or whatever the decision is, that's definitely very, very helpful. And I think it went back to the one thing led to another sort of thing. So you have a friend who you did those LinkedIn events, and you had a friend who worked at LinkedIn, then LinkedIn Learning and helping students, and now like a slow progression. So what sometimes seems like this big leap or big progression is sometimes these small little steps that a series of fortunate events that kind of conspire together and lead to bigger things. I'd love to hear a little bit on the Muay Thai side, because I found that a bit of an interesting piece where sometimes people are like kind of singly faceted, where you're a business professional and a business professional who does Muay Thai, not usually in the same sentence. So would love if you shared a little bit about that experience.
Absolutely. Funny enough, Luki, I did actually find other people on LinkedIn who talked about their Muay Thai experiences as well. And this was back around, let's say, 2018, 2019. This is after I had started Muay Thai, but we'll start at the beginning. So basically, I started Muay Thai around in 2016 after my university time, and the entire trigger for that was just that as a kid, I loved martial arts movies. No big secret there. A lot of people love watching action movies. And martial arts has always been a big thing for me. And a couple of family friends have always kind of steered me towards, let's say, MMA or generally Muay Thai, which is just the kickboxing element of the MMA world. And I think that a big part of it was the fact that it was something that was going to really put me outside of my comfort zone, especially a art that uses knees and elbows alongside, just punches and kicks. So there's a very, very big part of it that really kind of scared me at first. But then moving into it, I realized that you just start day by day and you get better 1% every day, right? It's just small, consistent actions that keep you going, and that you have to make on yourself in order to move forward and understand the art and understand exactly how to break it down to make it not that scary and complicated. So I think when I started doing a lot of Muay Thai within that timeline, it helped me out with just kind of my own physical prowess, making sure that I was mentally capable of moving forward with a lot of different things in my life. And I took a break from Muay Thai after I went back to school, and then basically I started after 2019. I ended up going with my brother to. My brother lives in Calgary, and I went to Calgary, and I was out of shape at that time, close to COVID, and I ended up climbing a mountain with him. And this was at a time that I realized I need to make a serious life change in order to change my dynamic, and that might require a 2-kilometer elevation mountain view. And I realized I was out of shape, and I went exactly straight back to Muay Thai. I went back to my gym, and I talked to my coach there, and I said, you know what, it's time for me to get things going back on a really good path. And I think, Luki, that's difficult for people to do with a generic gym, and you need some kind of focus, you need some kind of discipline there in order to keep going. And sometimes you get steered off, and this is what happened to me, right? For a number of years while I went back to school at Humber, I got steered off that path, and then once I was out of school, I got steered back on because I had the time, the energy, and the mental capacity to do so. And it really did help me propel my fitness journey and surround myself with like-minded individuals at different chapters of their life, right? And I think this is a big component of it. You should never compare your chapter 5 with someone else's chapter 10, because they've already been through a lot of the different trauma that you have, and they want to help you out. They want to go through some of those battles with you again in order to help you see where you made those mistakes and how you can overcome them, or how you can steer around those roadblocks in the path in order to go forward. And fast forward a couple of years from there, I worked hard within the Muay Thai, and I won my first fight last year. And I had realized that I set aside my fears in order to do something that I hadn't even considered was possible 2 years back. So yeah.
That's awesome. So it just kind of goes to show where sometimes personal and professional, they work hand in hand, where a lot of the lessons that you learned in terms of overcoming fear and getting 1% better each day translated into kind of your work life as well. And then something as simple as going on a hike with your brother, climbing a mountain, could be transformational. And sometimes you need those reminders to kind of focus on the more important things. Like your health is probably the most important thing for most folks. And with a little bit of focus, you can achieve great heights where, competing more competitively versus just kind of the recreational. And I like what you said about not comparing your chapter 5 with someone else's chapter 10, because there's always going to be someone ahead of you. But the real person that you want to compare with is yourself, yesterday, last year, or whatever it is that you're constantly improving. And if you dip down into something because something happened, you go back to school or whatever, you can always go back, and that just makes the movie about your life or the book about your life a little bit more interesting versus kind of the straight line in there. So now you're fighting competitively on the Muay Thai scene. You're in client success at Indeed, and life seems to be going pretty well for you. So I love if you could kind of recall some of the SIWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier for young Jeremy, either in university, in high school, or whatever times of challenge that you might have faced. I know you've already mentioned a bunch of them already, but are there any one or two that you want to elaborate on, or ones that you haven't mentioned yet?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest elements is just taking more risks. Starting along a path rather than letting the path choose you is a big item. And just don't let the path choose you every time, because that's going to seem like the easiest choice, rather than taking a step back and thinking about it and saying, you know what, I want to choose something that's going to work out for me in the end, and not just work out for me within the short term or within right now. Because a lot of people really just choose what is necessary, and they let their actions move around them. And it's more important for us to make those necessary decisions and let our actions define the level of commitment there, and go 100% any time that the offer is given, and not just go halfway committed. I think another big item is learning where to involve emotion and where to relinquish it at times. Because to make better decisions for yourself as a human being, you got to make sure that you're putting yourself first rather than letting potential opportunities pass you up. And this comes a lot within the business background there, because you want to make sure that you're making the best possible decisions, whether it be let's say financial, whether it be anything for your career, or just making sure that you're making the best decisions for your own mental capacity, right? Because a lot of people will prioritize time, money, or just health, and they have to realize that no matter what you're putting in there, you're sacrificing something else, right? And a good way to look at it about, let's say, going to the gym, or working on your passion, your regular project every day, is that if you're not growing, sometimes you may not be just stagnant, you may be kind of deteriorating there. So it's always good to, even if you want to take a day off, do something with your day off, right? Don't just lay in bed. It's very important to just work or have some kind of action that you're pursuing on that day off, rather than just deteriorating in bed. You want to make sure that you are living life to your potential and putting yourself out there. So I think that's a really good way to look forward at it.
Yeah, so many words of wisdom in that. If you're not growing, you're kind of dying and decaying. It almost points to inflation, right? Because the world, we're in a state of, I wouldn't say hyperinflation, but the steadily increasing inflation. So if you're not keeping up with inflation in your own personal growth, then you'll kind of be left behind. I love what you said about when you're sacrificing, you're always sacrificing. Whenever you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else. So whether you're sacrificing to go to the gym or sacrificing to lay on the couch, right? If you do take time to relax, do make it productive if you can manage. And I like what you said about acknowledging that we're emotional beings, right? So whether to involve emotions, relinquish emotions, super hard to do in the moment. But if you can train yourself a little bit, then understand where those come into play, where they're helpful versus where they can be a detriment. And I like what you said about choosing a path so the path doesn't choose you. So for me, I found that the purpose of life is to live life purposefully, right? And that's that conscious choice to say, okay, am I on this path because I want to be here, or is it because mom and dad want it for me, my family and my culture or whatever? And the more that you can make it about your personal choice, right? And your choice might be that I want to honor my family and go down this path to finish my university degree, to get that doctorate or whatever it is, which is fine. But understanding the process. So I was chatting with someone the other day where his family is very traditional, and he's on a path to get his CPA because his dad always wanted it. And he's counting down the days. Once the test is done, once he gets it, you can say, Dad, I met my obligation. Here it is. Now I want to live my life. So make those conscious choices. Otherwise, as you said, the path will choose it for you. And sometimes you'll be on a path that you may or may not like. So love all of those different things. And I'm sure we can kind of deep dive to any and or all of those areas. But if folks want to hear a little bit more about you, what are some of the future aspirations that folks can look forward to hearing from you? Probably more on the Muay Thai side, maybe on the career side. And then where can folks reach out if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So right before I jump into future aspirations and reach outs, I just wanted to kind of circle back for a second,
Sure.
Luki, on what you said there, which is a very important element that I was kind of reiterating earlier about the obligations. And that's a bigger item, right? The whole doctor, engineer, lawyer, or just any other item is a big kind of obligation for most people, especially those coming from an ethnic background, to kind of perform for their parents. And it doesn't always have to be like that, right? It just has to be something that you're passionate about. Let's say there may be money down the line, but in the element of making sure that you're providing for yourself, and even in a very difficult economy right now at this time, making sure that you are grinding and you're sacrificing towards what you want to do should be the biggest element there, and prioritizing yourself before anyone else, right? Because it's your life, and you want to make sure that you're doing the best you can for your future. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is a really good point that I think a lot of people could take from this conversation here. In terms of my future aspirations, so I do want to progress within the client success and account management space, along with continuing my education as a student of martial arts to further build discipline and character, because I do believe that both those hand in hand do make for kind of a very healthy relationship, just work and also play, and just continue to consult and help others navigate the career development space and assisting them on their job search journey. So I do have a lot of people kind of generally reach out to me, especially in this time, with kind of just taking a look at their resume, helping them reach out and apply for the right jobs, making sure that they understand exactly how difficult the space is, and that they have to make moves that are different than everybody else if they want to get on the boat and not get left behind. So a lot of people do need that kind of push in order to move forward, and that's something that I have always been passionate about, and that's something that I will continue to help them out with.
Sounds good. And if folks want to reach out, they can probably find you on LinkedIn, and we'll probably put that information in the show notes.
Absolutely. So my link is here within the chat, and you should be able to find it here on the podcast as well. Luki should be able to help provide that. And the name is Jeremy Largo-Afonso if you want to search me up, and I'm more than happy to help provide any different career advice or needs that you may have.
Sounds good. We'll definitely include that in the show notes. And thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing your story and a lot of the SIWIKE, the stuff you wish you knew earlier as well. And hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Luki. Take care.
Thanks for joining us on the SIWIKE, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.